The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Welcome to Meet the Author. Today we're here with wonderful, extraordinarily talented photographer Tiffany Wayne and her new book, Photographing Couples. And I'm Chris Saxe, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. Tiffany, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
This book was really enlightening for me because I'm just your typical run-of-the-mill, grab your camera, take shots, but it really helped me to figure out how to make pictures special and wonderful. So I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I just want you to tell us about yourself. Like, how did you get into this from your childhood? Where did you grow up and things like that?
Okay, so I was actually born in Ithaca, New York, and grew up in the Clifton Park, so local area. But as early as I can remember, I was always around cameras and taking pictures. My grandfather in particular, he would always follow my sister and I around with his camera, and those are some of my earliest memories that I have was with photography, is with my grandfather.
Now, did he take amazing shots? Was he really good at it?
Yeah, he did. He was really, really good at it, and he had a whole collection of cameras, which I actually have now displayed in my office. And I actually, for the camera that I use for weddings, I have his camera strap on.
Oh.
So it's like always been a part of my life, but I never really knew that it could be a career. So I just was always taking pictures. I would get CVS throwaway cameras. I'd make my cousins model for me, all sorts of stuff. So I was always involved in it ever since I was young. But I never knew.
Did you go to college for photography, or did you just think you wanted to do something else? How did that evolve? You know, as you grew older.
Yeah. So I actually didn't go to college for photography right off the bat. I went for communications, and I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was taking pictures at that time, but again, didn't know I could make a living. So after I graduated, I found myself with a binder full of pictures, and a lot of people liked them. So I was like, okay, well, where do I go from here? So I went back to my high school photography teacher, Ron Taylor at Shenendehowa, and he directed me to Hallmark Institute of Photography, which is located in Massachusetts. And it's a 10-month intensive program that teaches you not only the technical aspect, but also the business. Mm-hmm. So I was instantly hooked, and that's where I went to school.
That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I loved working there, or not working there, but just being there. It was just so much fun.
So what was your first job? Or can you remember your first real photography job, or did it just kind of evolve that you did friends and then it went from there?
I do remember it, actually. Well, do you want the first paying job before I went to photography
you can
school?
Start with the first job and then go into the paying job, because we want to hear all about it.
Okay. So one of the first jobs that I had actually was for a wedding, and this was before photography school, and I, at the time, didn't want to do weddings, to be honest. I really had an interest in the fashion and beauty industry and thought that was the direction I was going to pursue. But this particular bride, she had modeled for me, you know, in the past, and she was just like, I loved the pictures. I know you can do this. And I was really nervous. I was kind of like, okay, hire a professional and I'll be there, but I don't want the sole responsibility of, you know, taking your wedding pictures because I've never done this before. And I was shooting film. So obviously this was a long time ago. But yeah, so that was my first paying job. I remember, you know, actually running out of film, like right after the cake cutting, and because I knew the family, the brother was like, hey, I'm just going to run up to CVS and grab you some more rolls of film, and I was like, okay, great. And I mean, looking back now, like especially since weddings is primarily, you know, what I shoot, it's just, I mean, jaw-dropping that I could have let that happen. And so, you know, you live and learn, I guess.
I guess you do. And now photography everybody's changed so much. Like you said, you had film. Now everything's digital. Has it made it harder or easier? Or can you get the pictures perfect? Use like a Photoshop? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's funny because, you know, when you're shooting with film, you're very conscious of making sure that everything is in perfect place, perfect lighting, perfect everything, because you're limited to, say, 36 exposures. So you really want to, you know, be careful of how you just kind of start snapping away. Whereas now with digital, it's so easy to overshoot because, you know, you have unlimited space, unlimited you know what I mean? You can just keep going. So I don't want to say there's not as much thought process, because I don't find that to be true for me, but I mean, you certainly, you know, tend to overdo it. Whereas in the past, you know, you'd be a little bit more thoughtful with every shot that you take. So
is it more time afterward though, because you have so many shots and then you have to come out with the best?
Yes. I mean, after a wedding, I'm probably going through sometimes close to 3,000 images, which is an overwhelming amount. And to try and, you know, whittle that down to, you know, a good representation of their day, sometimes I find that to be around between, I don't know, maybe 1,200 and 1,500, depending on how much time I spend with them. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of post-production involved when you shoot that many images.
Sure. My daughter, who has her little iPhone, and she'll just take video and then turn that into photos. Do you ever do that? Or
no, I actually haven't done that. I know it's pretty popular. You know, at least there's some new software out there where you can take videos and, you know, freeze an image and kind of go from there. But I haven't done that. No.
But your images are just unbelievable. So thanks. Maybe we could talk about some of them. Maybe we could bring up the photo next to the gate. So Greg will bring that up and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And it's this image here. Tell us about when you shot that.
So that was actually a wedding in January at Franklin Plaza. And I mean, given winter hours, we all know that the sun sets quite early. And if you're having an evening wedding, which most weddings are, you know, you run the risk of not being able to do any portraits outside, which, you know, there's a lot of appeal with sunset and things like that. So with this particular wedding, it was right after the ceremony, and it was right outside the church, actually. The sun had already gone. I had some assistance with some lighting, and I just kind of asked them to kind of come together and hold his face so romantically. And
I love how, you know, we're so used to, I look at my old wedding album when I got married in the 90s, and everybody's just standing there like statues.
Yeah.
And yours are, you know, they really tell a story. It's not just a picture. It's, you want to try to tell everyone how much the couple loves each other. And I think your pictures really do exude that.
Oh, thank you.
And it's really a gift that you have that you can do that. But the book did help me. My daughter will be going to her first prom, and I'm thinking I don't want to shoot them, you know, standing next to each other.
Traditional prom pose.
Maybe I'll do some of the things that you do. And this book really, I think, helps not only the person who's a professional photographer or more skilled in photography, but it would also help the average American that doesn't have skills.
Right.
Because in the book you also talk about, you know, different settings for your camera, and that looked like foreign language to me. But for, you know, the posing and all that, it was really interesting, you know, not to just have people standing, and kind of gives you ideas of what you can do.
Yeah.
So that was great. So tell us how this book just came about.
So it's actually funny. I got an email from an editor through Amherst Media, which is the publisher. And when I initially read it, in their interest of, you know, having a book with me, I thought it was spam. Like, I didn't think it was a real email, because I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, geez, you know, how did they find me? But, you know, I wrote back, and sure enough, you know, it actually was a real inquiry, obviously. And that's kind of where it all started. She just asked me to submit 60 images and, you know, do a little write-up with each one, and basically how I was able to create each image. And that's kind of how it started. It was about a year and a half in the making. A lot of changes throughout that time.
Did you travel to her, or did she come to you? And she's in Massachusetts?
Everything was remote. Yep, and they're actually located in Buffalo.
Oh, Buffalo.
Yeah. I thought Amherst, like with
Yeah,
Massachusetts. Yeah. No, they're actually located in Buffalo, which was a surprise to me. But yeah, it was just kind of back and forth through email and things like that, which worked out really, really nicely, considering the distance between us. But
So we have so many people that are self-published, but someone came to you
Yeah.
to solicit this book, and that just tells of your talent.
oh, thank you.
Tiffany actually did photograph my niece's wedding a couple years ago, and the pictures are actually in the book, and they are amazing.
Thank you.
And that shot is, if you get the book, it's on an ivy wall in Schenectady. It's an old brick wall with ivy growing on it as a backdrop. And
Yep.
the photos are just gorgeous.
Thanks.
Did you just kind of, walk into Schenectady with the couple and find that, or did you scout that ahead of time?
So that was actually something we stumbled upon. Yeah.
Sometimes you might.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it depends. I think I typically prefer to go into a situation not knowing what I'm going to be looking at as opposed to planning things out, because I think the photos are a little bit more organic when you're just kind of, being thrown into a situation.
Right.
But I do remember that day, and their outfits just matched the paint and the way everything just kind of worked, like with the wall and like the ivy and everything. It was just good. We actually hopped a fence to get that shot.
Did you really?
I don't know if I was supposed
In their little dresses.
I know. Like, all right, here you go, Kaylee.
The photos are amazing.
Thank you.
They really
Thank
are.
you.
The results are incredible. So I encourage you all to get this book out. It will be at the Colonie Town Library very shortly, and you can get it at Barnes & Noble, is that right?
And Amazon, yep.
And Amazon.com. What was your most favorite event that you photographed? I'm sure you have many, but does one stick out in your mind as incredible?
Yeah. This might be a little bit biased, but I have to say, when my nephew was born, that was actually really pretty special. And I know that's not in the book, but when you asked me that question, that was like the first thing that kind of came to mind. Second to that, I guess, just to kind of tie in with what I have featured, is probably an engagement session where it happened to rain right during sunset. And we were at the tail end of the engagement session, and I asked the couple, I'm like, are you guys okay with getting a little bit wet? And they're just like, yeah, sure, why not? So here I am standing with an umbrella, holding my camera, holding some towels under my arm, and I'm just like, just lift her up. And I just kept thinking of scenes from The Notebook. I'm like, this is so romantic. I just love it.
Yes, and those images we can bring up too, because we have those.
It's actually on the cover.
Is it just on the cover? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes, it's on the cover of the book.
So this is one of the shots from there, yeah.
They're this couple in the rain, and it's so neat how the rain looks in the shot too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you can tell that his shirt is drenched, but it was perfect timing.
So playful.
Yeah. It was just a lot of fun.
So maybe we can talk about some of your other shots. A lot of your shots, we're going to reference the one where the couple is in the field, and they are. Is it summertime? Maybe you can tell us about this. You have them sitting in a field, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, so it was summer, and this is actually a local business owner. That's Randy Vogel, now Pullion. She is co-owner of Strut Spa Antique, and this was at Saratoga National. And one of my favorite spots to photograph at Saratoga National is in this tall, grassy field, just because the way the sun sets behind it, it's like really beautiful and golden. And during portrait session, we just kind of took a golf cart and went off to the side, and was just like, okay, let's get you guys in the field, pretend you're having,
And they don't get dirty. Do you put blankets underneath them or anything?
Well, I'll share a little trick with you. So when you're sitting down a bride, you never want her to sit on her actual dress. So usually I'll lift it up so that way when she sits down on the ground or wherever she is, it's on like the underskirt of the dress. So that way if anything were to get, now of course this no mud or anything like that. This is just like, well, if there's any question, usually I won't do it. But, as long as it's like a dry area, I'll just kind of like scoot the dress and then kind of put it down afterwards. So.
Wow, that's a gorgeous shot too.
Thank you.
And the lighting, like you said, right before sunset is the best time to take
Yeah,
the photo.
about 20 minutes before sunset. That's usually my favorite time.
It's interesting
Golden
to know.
hour. Yeah,
Golden
yeah,
hour.
yeah.
And that shot is gorgeous,
Thank
too.
you, thank you.
Wow, and the look on her face is just so peaceful.
I know.
And let's talk about, okay, the hug shots. We'll bring those up, too. You have this couple, and she is gorgeous in her wedding gown, and she's just hugging her groom, and I love that the flowers are in the shot, too.
Yeah.
You know.
This wedding was actually photographed in Atlanta, and I don't know, for me, like, those images they just feel natural. For me, when I'm, working with a couple, it's really important to just kind of get to know them and, how they interact with each other, so that way I can almost reenact that, when it comes time for doing their photos. And, they were always kind of like snuggling up with each other, and, she just like seeing like the big smile on her face and kind of like looking up to the side. It just, I don't know, it just feels very real, so.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. And these girls are beautiful, and the grooms are all. I mean, it's their special day, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And you really capture, like I said, their love and their feeling for each other. So do you meet with these couples ahead of time to really get to know them, and they have a wish list, or how does that work when you have a couple, or do they solicit you probably?
Yeah. So usually after an inquiry, I like to set up a meeting or a phone conference if they're not in the local area. And right off the bat, I always ask questions. I'm like, how did you guys meet? What's your story? How did he propose? I want to know all those girly details, just because I think it's really important to get to know who they are, so that way they're showing in their pictures,
Right.
So usually like I'll chat with them, initially, and then we'll have an engagement session, which is an even better way of getting to know each other. Not only because you get to work, hand in hand ahead of time, but just, for the going back and forth and chit chat and stuff like that. So,
and usually, I saw the one shot in your book. It's so cute. It takes place at Coconut's Bake Shop.
Yes.
Because the couple got engaged there. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Tell us about that. That was really cute, and that couple.
Yeah. So after our initial consultation, when they said that they wanted to do an engagement session, and they explained the story of how he proposed to her there, and I was just like, I love that idea.
Was it in the cupcake, or how was it?
Yeah, so the proposal, let's see, this was actually a while ago. So he proposed to her by bringing her a cupcake home after, I think it was like a long day, and if I'm remembering the story correctly, Kristen, forgive me if I'm not, she was like in her sweatpants, and they were just kind of hanging out at home, and he just brought home cupcakes and like had it written in there. So
will you marry me on the cupcake?
yeah. So
That's so cute.
yeah, it was really sweet. So we got to go back there, and they wrote, "She said yes," and then we put the ring back in the cupcake.
And in the shot you have is he's holding the cupcakes, and she said yes. And is his face in the shot? I'm trying to remember. It was beautiful.
I think it was a detail shot of just like his hands with the cupcake. Yeah.
It was really neat.
Yeah.
So Polka Dots agreed to do that.
They did. Yep, we contacted
really
them
neat.
ahead of time to make sure everything was
We
okay.
took the actual shots in the bake shop with the background, and then next to the cupcake truck too.
We did.
Kind of snuggling, and she has her leg up, and he's about to kiss her. It looks like it's so cute.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really
That's
fun.
really neat. So a lot of times you want to match their personality, and
Exactly.
do they get to pick where they want the shots? Do you want an urban location or more of a country setting, or do you work on that together, or do you kind of as an artist pick the spot?
I like to work on that together with a couple, just because if they have a specific area that they go to a lot or that's really special to them, I think it just adds to the photo of being in a place where they go a lot.
Yeah.
Especially because sometimes you're pretty limited on the wedding day as to where you're going to do your photographs. So the engagement shoot is just another opportunity to really like tie in who they are. So I definitely like to work with them on location.
Oh, these pictures are just works of art.
Oh, thank you.
And I think it's so neat. I wish I had photos like this that I could just hang in my house and be proud of, like as works of art on my walls. But the pictures that I have are so
we can do
generic.
something.
Yes. Now that we're old and we don't look like we used to. But but what other events do you photograph other than weddings and basically, what have you done in the past, and what do you offer?
Yeah, so primarily I photograph weddings and engagements, but I do also do families and maternity, newborns. It's, something that has just kind of evolved, I guess, because once I'm with my clients on their engagement and wedding day, they want to keep me in the loop, I guess. So, so I find myself working with my clients again, as they're kind of growing their families and things like that, which is really special. Yeah.
And as a photographer, I have to say that seeing you at my niece's wedding, because of course I was there, you do such a great job like blending in, and you're so warm, your personality is so warm and friendly that it really helps the couple feel at ease. And that's probably difficult too, being a photographer. You kind of want to stay in the background.
Yeah. If I could paint invisible paint on me for a wedding day, like that would be my favorite thing. I definitely like to, be behind the scenes, just, so that the day is organic and I'm not really doing too much directing. At the same time, though, I'm not afraid to chime in if I need to make sure that I get the right shot. But for the most part, I definitely love to blend in and be in the background.
You do a good job.
But even more than that, though, like I really try and act like as an extension to their family that day, or even a good friend, because to me it's really important that the couples feel themselves when they're around me, so that way I can showcase who they are, and it's not feeling stiff or like, oh my gosh, this photographer what is he doing? So
I remember my wedding photographer posed me by the window and made me not smile, and it's just not my personality. I'm always laughing and smiling, and he forced me to make a serious pose, and he took so long on that shot, and it came out terrible because it wasn't me. But I still have that on my wedding album, and I will never hang it on the wall. Can you tell us, have you ever had an experience with a bridezilla? I know they might be out there, or has everything gone pretty well for you?
I have to say I've been really fortunate and pretty blessed. All my clients have really been wonderful, and they've become my friends. I mean, your niece is a prime example. Like our parents just met, so it's like now we're one big happy family. But yeah, I've actually been really fortunate with all my clients, and I haven't, knock on wood, haven't had anyone that I didn't click with.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it comes from your personality too.
Thanks.
Now, can you get this kind of image with like a typical digital camera, or not really?
Well, what's typical?
I don't know. I have like a Lexmark. What I love is that some of the backgrounds are blurry, and the couple comes forward. Is there any way of doing that with a regular camera, or do you have to have more advanced training?
That actually comes with the lens that you buy. So if you have, you need definitely a professional camera gear in order to really,
Okay.
But it's definitely the lens that, thank you. But it's definitely the lens that really kind of makes a picture go to the next level.
Yeah, and you talk about a diffuser. I do know what that is.
Yep.
That doesn't make us look so bad.
Yeah, harsh shadows, those are never flattering.
So we're going to just bring up another shot. This is another couple that you photographed, and it's another gorgeous shot. Can you get a good shot of it? Yeah. Tell us about this couple.
So that couple, that was actually after their wedding. It was for an advertising session for the Century House. So we got together and did kind of a mock-up wedding to be used for their advertising, and that was just one of the shots from that particular day. But they're married in real life, obviously.
And they do look like models.
I know, they're gorgeous, gorgeous. Yep.
Oh, wow. And there's another shot of them, too. Mm-hmm. And the black and white is so in now, too. There's a lot of people want black and white shots, but here it is in color, another shot. Mm-hmm. But wow, look at those colors.
Yeah, it was during the spring.
And I love the clarity you get in the bouquet and the dress. And you can really see all that. In the background, again, you have blurred the rhododendrons in the back. It's just beautiful. You can even see her jewelry. All those little details.
I know.
The brides spend millions on.
So much, I know.
But that's a really neat shot. Awesome. Is this in the Century House brochure as well?
I believe so. Yep.
Wow. Awesome. So I don't know if I have any other questions. Oh, actually, tell us about how the wedding shot. How did the shots from my day era change? And do you know anything about how that all came about? The pictures are more tell a story than they used to, with people just standing there. Do you know anything about how that evolved, or did you kind of get into it?
I think it's basically because the technology has changed so much. I mean, we have, so much at our fingertips, compared to what we did before. I mean, if you think back when film was popular, you had to stand still and pose just right and hold right there. Like, you weren't really able to kind of move on the fly because you were really trying to perfect the one shot. And a lot of times, if you think back, even earlier, like when, photography first started, a lot of people aren't smiling in their images, and that's because not to bring back like the straight face for you, but like further than that, you had to just be very, very still because you couldn't move, otherwise the image would be blurry and the shot wouldn't take. So, there was a lot that went into it, whereas now, technology has changed so much that you're able to do things on the fly, and I think with that, the creative aspect really kind of just went along with it and flourished a bit.
Yeah, these pictures are just so different, and I'm glad that things have changed. If anyone would like to contact you or get your book, maybe you could tell us how if you have a website or.
Yeah, so my website is tiffanywayne.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Tiffany Wayne. I'm on Facebook as well as Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. I'm kind of all over the place. So if you just Google Tiffany Wayne, surely there will be several places where you can get in touch.
And it's Tiffany, TIFFANYWAYNE, spelled Tiffany Wayne.
Yep.
And the book will be at the library, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. And I would encourage you, if you want to learn how to photograph couples, if you have kids going to the prom, or if you have a wedding coming up, this book will really help you to learn how to pose your subjects and create some beautiful shots. Maybe not as great as Tiffany's, but but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And look for the book at our library.
Awesome. Thank you.